Hi, my name's Erin O'Connor. I'm from the School of Psychology and Counselling, and I want to share with you a method of collaborating with your learners that will assist you in gaining two-way feedback about their understanding of assessment and how your learning and teaching techniques throughout a semester may have assisted in developing that understanding. So what's frustrating about teaching? I often find myself making genuine efforts to write clear and helpful CRA sheets, only to find that at the end of the semester, the learners report feeling unsupported and confused. The method I'm going to tell you about is a tool that assists teachers and learners through a process of collaboration, reflection, and feedback in order to achieve a greater mutual understanding of assessment requirements and marking criteria. In traditional learning, learners often attempt assessment pieces without much awareness of their current achievements compared to the standards expected. So to produce a piece of assessment, they've had to make a series of complex decisions about how to respond to the task. A learner writing a lab report will try to decide the best way to present their data or compose a title. They may have been given tutorials on the task, during which the tutor has said things like, "Make your title relevant," or present your data in a logical order. But a student can't be sure of what their marker will consider relevant or logical. Possibly the learners will make these decisions without really knowing which of their possible response options was most appropriate. And when results are sent back to the learner, they're given feedback about the approach that they elected to take, but they're not privy to feedback about other options that they might have considered. The academic returning the feedback is hopeful that the student understands all of this feedback that they've given, but often has no way of confirming this understanding with each individual student. As this trial and error method continues throughout a unit and course, the learner continues to submit assessment and receive feedback in an attempt to gain an overall understanding of expectations around assessment. In traditional learning, assessment is a partially hidden agenda, even if we try and make it clear. And in many cases, the student will never observe their teacher producing a practice piece of assessment or observe them marking before it's their turn to be evaluated. Many authors, such as Boyd, have suggested alternatives to this traditional way of learning. So in the Collaborate for Feedback approach, we encourage collaborative learning as it actively engages learners, builds interpersonal and teamwork skills via participation in task-oriented learning groups, and encourages learners to listen carefully, think critically, participate constructively, and collaborate productively to solve problems. Student reflection on their contribution to the task is also an important part of the process. Reflective learning allows learners to develop the capacity to self-evaluate their own ideas and performance, develop understandings of how to adapt their knowledge to the requirement of the current situation, and to develop plans for their own self-improvement. Lastly, and the importance of feedback in a formative way is highlighted. This allows learners to evaluate their examples of work, receive guidance about how they can improve the quality of their work, and be engaged in reflective discussions about how improvements may be made on work. So here are the steps to the Collaborate for Feedback process. First, the process requires you as the academic lead to identify an appropriate assessment task and plan the activity. During the task, you'll collaborate with your students on a mock version of an assessment piece. They'll reflect on how they could improve the work at each stage and also tell you why they're making that decision. This helps you understand what in the unit has helped them come to this level of achievement. The facilitator also provides feedback, which includes grading and regrading the piece of work as it develops against the given criteria so that students can see how their changes and contributions may improve or reduce the grade or the evaluation of the item. The aim here is to create a task and grading process that's fully transparent to both the facilitator and the students so that a mutual understanding can be reached about what the criteria are, how they're defined, and what they look like as reflected in a completed piece of work. And step 4, although it's expected that this mock task will be run as a once-off activity during a tutorial or lecture, you should also involve some follow-up discussion, and I'm suggesting that this is done online. This allows further feedback and development of the task if appropriate, and allows a wide range of students to engage in the task. Let's run through those steps a bit more in detail. So in step 1, you're identifying an assessment task that is due before mid-semester, ideally. This task may be one that learners struggle to complete, and you should have existing resources and support that can be distributed to the learners before this process. The C4F process will involve collaboratively creating a single or multiple mock responses to the assessment task, or some kind of demo version of the assignment. In step 2, in your C4F class, you'll need to engage the learners in the process of producing or generating this assessment piece, or this mock assessment piece. This may mean in a class that you're writing a short demo essay about a topic that's similar to the assignment that's set. You might also stage a role play so that the class can write a single reflection based on one of the characters in the role play. It just depends on the assignment. If the assessment's written, the lecturer can field questions sentence by sentence from the class, and the teacher can then type those sentences up on the screen for the whole class to see. For artefacts, the lecturer may take the lead in constructing a mock artefact in front of the class based on direction and suggestions from the learners. It's important to make this stage work for you. Some examples of ways that you could uncover learners' reasoning for their suggestions includes: what should we include in an opening sentence? When have we spoken about opening sentences in class? How do you know to make that suggestion? Some of the other options might be: what's missing here? How do you know? What in our unit has told you that that's missing? Each time you're asking what they would suggest and why or how they know to make that suggestion. And that's telling you where in your unit your learners have found helpful information which they're applying to the assessment task. It may also give you clues about which learning activities haven't resonated with the students, or which learning activities they haven't connected to this particular piece of assessment. There's more suggestions in our handbook. The last step is providing feedback and openly grading. Some lecturers will choose just to provide feedback and skip the open grading, and that's fine. In the full process, the teacher should demonstrate how they would approach the grading of the task and provide feedback about how this marking occurs. If possible, the CRA sheet should be referred to. The learners should be invited to suggest reasons for the current grade or level of achievement and possible improvements. They can also be welcome to discuss how they've learnt about possible improvements, or what in the unit has helped them to make this suggestion. Again, that's really valuable feedback to you as a facilitator and teacher about which one of your learning activities is really resonating with your learners, and whether there's any misunderstandings in the application of these activities to the assessment piece. The final step is discussion, closure, and online follow-up. Allow time at the end of the session to answer any further questions that learners might wish to ask. These questions may be about the specific mock assignment, but the learners may also want to ask questions more broadly that will link to their assessment. The mock assessment piece then, if possible, is uploaded onto the unit Blackboard to allow further discussion. One possible place is the Blackboard Wiki. The online discussion allows learners to further clarify the requirements and expectations for the task, and it can provide a forum for students who are less comfortable with in-class discussions. The discussion is moderated by the unit coordinator on a regular basis, and a final grading of the piece may be made if there are further suggestions from the group about how to improve the mock piece. You may make a contract with your learners that the more they contribute to the online discussion, the more that you will share about the grading or the evaluation of the piece. The initial results of trials of this process have shown that the C4F process improves student perceptions of understanding, is useful at different times during the semester, although we do suggest you using it about mid-semester. It suits medium and small classes, and it has worked with written and physical artefacts. For more information, we do have a handbook which will be available via Reframe Resources. You can also contact me via phone or email for further discussions.